Today's libation is one Miss Octavia Victoria Rogers Albert. Let me say her name again. Today's libation is for Octavia Victoria Rogers Albert, December 24th, 1853 to August 19th, 1889. December 24th, 1853 to August 19th, 1889. An African-American author and biographer, she documented slavery in the United States through a collection of interviews with ex-slaves in her book, The House of Bondage, or Charlotte Brooks and Other Slaves, which was posthumously published in 1890. This book was published in December of 1890. Octavia began conducting interviews with men and women in Houma, Louisiana, who were once enslaved. She met Charlotte Brooks for the first time in 1879 and decided to interview her later, along with other former slaves from Louisiana. These interviews were the raw material for her collection of narratives. Excerpts from this work were published in the Southwestern Christian Advocate. Let's do this Octavia Victoria Rogers Albert quote. Much has been written concerning the Negro, and we must confess that the moral standing of the race is far from what it should be. But who is responsible for the sadly immoral conditions of this illiterate race in the South? I answer unhesitatingly, their masters. Octavia V. Rogers Albert. All right, let me read that one again. That's a pretty powerful quote. Much has been written concerning the Negro, and we must confess that the moral standing of the race is far from what it should be. But who is responsible for the sadly immoral conditions of this illiterate race in the South? I answer unhesitatingly, their masters. Octavia V. Rogers Albert. Though we were able to salvage some of our indigenous culture, even through the horrors of slavery, most of what is our culture is a trauma response to slavery. From day one, the oppressors who brought us here and exploited us have tried to blame us for our condition. Like we chose to be uneducated, like we chose to only be burdens of beasts of burden, like we decided not to engage in science and engineering and language and philosophy and spirituality while we were enslaved. As a matter of fact, we engaged in all of those things on a high level, despite what our oppressors hit us with. Thank you, Octavia Albert, for telling them the truth to their face, for taking a moment to capture our stories and to shed a light of empathy and love on them. The first step to Kujichagulia, self-determination, is to figure out exactly who you are. Octavia made that her mission with her biographical work and made sure to always blame the condition of the Negro on the people who exploited the Negro. I smile as I think of how proud she would be to see how far we've come. Friends, let's pour a libation for Octavia Victoria Rogers Albert. We never forget, so never fear. For homies who ain't here, we pouring out a beer. Because of you, it'll never be the same. We keep saying your name while we pour champagne. For the mothers and the father figures, your flames to flickers, we pouring out some liquor. We're the sons and the daughters of heroes and martyrs. Honor you by pouring out some water. Friends, today's libation is for one Miss Octavia Victoria Rogers Albert.